Over the long rich history of the MLB, there have been a handful of truly transcendent pitchers. Guys like Cy Young and Walter Johnson, Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax, Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez, and Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw dominated their respective eras. All of these pitchers are considered some of the best of all time, regardless of position, and they've all had at least one truly legendary season to distinguish themselves from the rest of the pack. In 1968, known as the year of the pitcher, the late great Bob Gibson had what many people consider the greatest season by a pitcher in history. But in 2021, deGrom is on pace to lap Gibson by almost every metric. So it begs the question, is deGrom having the most dominant season by a pitcher of all time? It's almost crazy to say such a thing when you mention the names that I previously did. Even when looking at the history of my favorite team, the New York Mets, and all the great pitchers that have played for the franchise like Tom Seaver and Dwight Gooden, deGrom may just be a cut above them all. Really quick though, before we start, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I got great feedback from my last video on Shohei Ohtani, another anomalous baseball player, and I'd love to keep that momentum going. I got a lot of other great videos on the docket coming up, so to be in the know for when those drop, click on that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get started. It's wild to think about now, but deGrom wasn't a pitcher in his early baseball life. As an amateur, the man from DeLand, Florida, enrolled in a small local university called Stetson to play shortstop for their team. There, Jake was an average hitter, batting .263 for his career, but he was noted for his fielding ability and his strong arm. Knowing his struggles at the plate, his coaches noticed his throwing power, and one day, during his sophomore season, the shortstop was called into action to pitch in the 8th inning. He shut down the side in order, a glimpse into his potential on the mound. Yet, Jake still considered himself a shortstop, so much so that when a collegiate summer league team asked him to sign for them as a pitcher, he declined and stayed at his preferred position. But when the coaching staff came knocking again to fill a starting spot, he obliged. Jake went on to pitch his first real stretch of games his junior year, going 4-5 in 12 starts with a 4.48 ERA. These unspectacular numbers didn't attract the attention of many scouts, but one GM in particular took notice. Former Mets GM Omar Minaya, noted for building one of the best rosters in franchise history, took a liking to deGrom's potential in 2010. He stated that he thought Jacob had a really nice arm with the nice and easy delivery. Minaya saw what few others could see, and he took deGrom in the 9th round of the 2010 draft. As a professional, his career started off with a major hiccup as he was forced to get Tommy John surgery due to a UCL tear in his right elbow. This procedure kept him out for a year, but it couldn't stop deGrom from developing into one of the best pitching prospects in the minors. In 2012, he finished with a 2.43 ERA in Class A ball and was promoted to AAA by the end of the 2013 season. And after starting the 2014 season in AAA, deGrom was brought up to the big leagues on May 15th to face off against the New York Yankees. deGrom shined during his rookie year, posting a 9-6 record with a 2.69 ERA and 144 strikeouts. He was able to adjust to major league hitting right away, showcasing a deadly high fastball as well as a slider and changeup with a precipitous drop. It was obvious that the Mets' gamble on a shortstop converted pitcher had worked. Jake won the NL Rookie of the Year, the Mets' first winner of that award since Doc Gooden. Although it wasn't a full season for the rookie, deGrom proved that he was here to stay for the long haul. For an encore, deGrom followed up his rookie year with an excellent second season. He finished the season with a 2.54 ERA, 205 strikeouts, and a 0.98 whip in 30 starts. These numbers were good enough for Jacob to make his first All-Star appearance, one in which he pitched 1 inning and struck out the side on 10 pitches. His stellar pitching, along with other staff aces like Noah Syndergaard and Matt Harvey, helped propel New York all the way to the World Series. Although the Mets lost that series, deGrom was extremely clutch throughout the postseason. He began to make a name for himself as a pitcher who can work his way into and out of trouble. Jake finished the season 7th on the Cy Young ballot and firmly entrenched himself as one of the best young pitchers in the league. Considering the lofty standards he set during his first 2 seasons, the next 2 were down years in comparison. Everything came to a head in 2017 when he finished the year with a 3.53 ERA. This was a career worst for deGrom, and he was left frustrated by his lack of improvement. He even cut his hair this season, much to the dismay of Mets fans everywhere. Regardless of this down season, Jacob still finished 8th in the Cy Young voting, mainly due to his 239 Ks, which at the time were a career high. Everything changed for deGrom in 2018 as he began his streak of baseball supremacy. Despite a 10-9 record, deGrom dominated the majors with a 1.7 ERA, 0.91 WHIP, 269 strikeouts, a 2.18 ERA+, and a 1.98 FIP. For all the non-stat head nerds out there, ERA Plus is a pitcher's ERA adjusted to how they would fare in all the ballparks in the MLB. A 100 ERA Plus is a league average, so a 2.18 ERA Plus means that deGrom was more than 100 times better than the common big leaguer. FIP calculates how effective a pitcher is at preventing hits, walks, hit by pitches, and strikeouts. The average is around 4.20, and a great one is 3.5. So for deGrom to have a FIP under 2 is otherworldly. Jacob ended up leading the MLB in ERA Plus and FIP, and had the lowest single-season ERA since Zack Greinke's 1.66 in 2015. This outstanding season established deGrom as the best pitcher in the league and won him his first Cy Young. deGrom followed this season up with a worthy encore in 2019. He won his second consecutive Cy Young award behind a 2.43 ERA, 255 strikeouts, and a 0.97 WHIP. Although his FIP and ERA Plus went up, so did his Ks, and he led the league in that department. It was yet another display of mastery by Jake, and there was no more doubting his place in the pitching pecking order. He then followed up back-to-back Cy Young seasons with yet another superb, yet shortened year. It's a shame it was only a 60-game season, because he was on pace for an even better season than his 2018 campaign. He finished 2020 with a 2.38 ERA, 104 strikeouts, a 0.96 WHIP, and 13.8 Ks per 9. In only 12 starts. Despite these elite numbers, deGrom only finished 3rd in Cy Young voting, losing out on a Mickey Mouse Cy Young to Trevor Bauer. His own words, by the way. So after 3 straight seasons of pure deGrominance, the question was, could Jake possibly get any better? Scarily, the answer is yes. By the time this video is released, deGrom will have pitched 11 games and have an ERA of 0.54, 111 Ks, a .51 WHIP, 3.7 hits per 9, 0.4 home runs per 9, 1.1 walks per 9, 14.5 Ks per 9, and a 12.9 K to walk ratio. Absolutely insane numbers, right? Well, those are just some traditional numbers. Let's take a look at some of the advanced stats like the aforementioned ERA Plus and FIP. And as you can oh my god, holy cow, no way. This must be a misprint. Remember how a 100 ERA Plus is league average and a 3.5 FIP is considered great? Well, deGrom's ERA Plus so far this year is 688, and his FIP is 0.92. A 688 ERA Plus will mean Jake is more than 500 times better than the average pitcher, and honestly, probably makes sense. And a 0.92 FIP is practically unheard of in the history of baseball. deGrom was able to become a master of his craft this year by sticking with what he does best and doing it more often. Jake has always had a great fastball and slider, but this year he's almost exclusively used just those 2 pitches. He ditched the changeup and curveball and just went to his strengths and simply made them stronger. And for his fastball, he's gone from an above-average hurler to an absolute flamethrower. He's regularly ticked his fastballs over 100 miles per hour, even late into games. His high heater is practically unhittable and has turned the best hitters into baseball novices. Couple this with a nasty slider that has almost a 10 mile per hour difference, and it's no wonder that he only uses 2 pitches regularly. So how does deGrom's incomprehensible 2021 season so far stack up against some of the other single greatest pitching seasons of all time? Well, first, let's see where some of deGrom's current numbers would land him on all-time leaderboards if he ended the season with these numbers. So a 0.54 ERA would be first. His 0.51 WHIP would be first. His 688 ERA Plus would be first. His 0.92 FIP would be first. His Ks per 9 innings would be first. His hits per 9 innings would be first. And lastly, his K to walk ratio would be second, behind Candy Cummings' 20.5 set in 1875, but since that happened in 1875, I'll give him a modern day first. So there's no other way around it. deGrom's 2021 season would shatter almost every single season pitching record ever, and his advanced stats would shatter what I thought was his best season in 2018. Only true legends like Jacob can get significantly better than their best season. So let's compare deGrom's unreal stat line to Bob Gibson's 1968 numbers. In this season, which by many people is said to be the greatest for any baseball player ever, Bob put up a 1.12 ERA, 268 strikeouts, a .85 whip, a 258 ERA+, a 1.77 FIP, 5.8 hits per 9, 1.8 walks per 9, 7.9 Ks per 9, and a 4.3 strikeout to walk ratio. A further dive into the numbers show that through 10 full starts, deGrom has raced past Gibson. He's beating the Cardinals legend in ERA, whip, opponent's batting average, and opponent's OPS. It's clear to me who the winner between this matchup would be, and it's a former Stetson shortstop who only became a pitcher by his junior year in college. Still not convinced that deGrom's 2021 can be the best ever? Just take in some of these outlandish but true facts. deGrom currently has more RBIs, 6, than earned runs allowed, 4. He joins Gibson as the only starters ever to allow 1 or 0 runs in 11 consecutive starts. Lastly, over his last 2 full starts, Jake had 19 swinging Ks, and every single one of those pitches were out of the strike zone. In-freaking-sane stuff. In my opinion, the only thing that could stop deGrom from achieving baseball immortality are injuries. Since having Tommy John surgery, he's only been sidelined for little things like a hyperextended right elbow in 2018. But this year, he's already been on the injury report 3 times. At worst, he's only had to be on the 10-day IL. However, after 3 perfect innings into his 11th start, and striking out 8 of the 9 batters he faced, deGrom again left the game early. This time it was due to right shoulder soreness, which honestly could mean anything at the moment. We will know soon if this issue will linger and cause Jake to miss significant time. Hopefully not, because it would be an absolute shame if a shoulder injury was the cause of the end of possibly the greatest season ever. Regardless of what happens for the rest of the season, we should appreciate deGrom's ascendancy to greatness. He went from an average shortstop to an elite pitcher who has a devastating 100-mile-per-hour fastball and a nasty 92-mile-per-hour slider. Every 5 days, he has a chance to do something that's never happened before. In an era of doctored balls and sticky spin rates, deGrom has risen above it all to establish himself as the best pitcher in the league and one of the greatest pitchers of all time. As the odds-on favorite to win the NL MVP, deGrom will become the first pitcher to win the award since Clayton Kershaw in 2014. It would just be another feather in the cap of one of the most unlikely superstar aces in MLB history, and having 3 Cy Youngs in a 4-year span with an MVP would put him in rarefied air. Many people never thought they'd see a season greater than Gibson's legendary run in 1968, but if deGrom were able to stay healthy and hold up his stat line across the rest of the season, then there would be absolutely no doubt which pitcher had the greatest single season of all time.